All right, guys, here we go. This is week 2, lesson 1. Hopefully you guys have noticed that what we're going to be doing here for these first couple of weeks for this new kind of situation that we're in is we're going to be reviewing. In the last week you reviewed week 6 you reviewed unit 6 where we were graphing polynomial functions. Now we're going into circles. The nice thing about circles is you guys were very good at circles, so hopefully this week goes pretty well and you can start kind of getting into rhythm with how we're going to do this. What we're going to look at today is graphing a couple circles, writing the equations for circles. Now, if you don't remember, looking at this equation of a circle, it gives us a lot of information. We can find two different things from this equation of x squared plus y squared equals 16. What we can find is that we can find what the center of the circle is. We can also find what the radius of the circle is. Why that's helpful is because with any center and any radius, you can graph a circle, right? This would be your center. The radius would just be some distance like that. And if you just keep applying that radius over and over and over and over again, you end up getting this circle. That kind of looks like a circle, but you know what I'm saying. We'll get to a circle. So, looking at this equation, it tells us everything. It tells us the center, it tells us the radius. For this first question, we'll go through and look at it real in depth, and then we'll go through the next one with a little more speed, because I think you guys remember how to do this. Looking at this, we got x squared plus y squared equals 16. Again, from that, I'm telling you, we know what the center is, we know what the radius is. One way that we can think of this is we can add something in here. X squared, we can represent it as x plus 0 squared. Same thing with y squared. Y plus 0 squared. So we've changed nothing about our equation. It's still the same equation for a circle, but looking at that, it might be a little bit easier for us to see what the center is. From our equation, this plus 0 is telling us what the center is, right? It's saying left or right 0, up or down 0, telling us the center of that circle is at 0, 0. Now from that, we can start graphing our circle, right? We have our xy axis, and the center is right there at 0, 0. From that, the next piece of information we need is the radius, right? That's what the other piece of our equation is going to tell us. This 16 right here is going to tell us what the radius is. Now, I don't want you to just be like, oh, the radius is 16, check, we're done, because that would be a big circle. That's not what we have here. What we want to do is follow the pattern. Look at what it says. We have x plus 0 squared, y plus 0 squared, which means we can write this 16 as something squared, right? Following that pattern. What we know is that 4 to the second power is 16, telling us that that radius has to be 4. The easier way of doing it, or the other way that we could look at it, is we can just take that 16, do the square root of it. That also gives us 4, telling us that the radius of our circle is 4. Now we could finish graphing our circle, right? We just go from our center, we're going to go right, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a point. Up, left, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of this is from the center, and then down. And that should be able to let us draw a circle here. Now let's see if I can pull this together, give us a circle. And there we go. Right, that's our equation, or sorry, that's the graph of a circle, center 0, 0, radius of 4. Now we're going to look at the next example. Of course, there's going to be some added information, but again, from that equation, we can find the center, and we can find the radius, right? Those are the two big pieces of information we get from circles. Now, this is a little bit different, right? We have x plus 2 squared, y minus 4 squared equals 25. Again, it's telling us where the center is, right? This x plus 2, this y minus 4 is telling us all of the information that we need. Now, what we have to think is when we're in parentheses, we have to kind of think, I'm going to say think opposite, right? Because it's not telling us exactly what we want, right? When we see x plus 2, our first idea is, oh, that means go to the right 2. But again, we need to think opposite. X plus 2 is telling us left 2, right? We can actually already put that in our center. Left 2 is negative 2 for the x. Minus 4 is then telling us to go up 4. Again, we do the opposite for both of those, right? So we go from 0, 0, we go left 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. That right there would be the center of that circle. Left 2, up 4. Now the last thing that we would need is the radius. Again, we can find the radius the same exact way. Again, following that pattern, it's x plus 2 squared, y minus 4 squared. So we want to write this 25 as some number squared. That number ends up being 5, so we know that the radius is 5. Or again, you can just do the square root of 25 is 5, telling you that radius is 5. And then to finish it off, we can graph that, right? So we're going to go from that center, we're going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is not going to work out well because I didn't place this, but it's okay. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to kind of run into what we have for our radius, but that's okay. That would be the graph. Whoops, I'll hit my eraser here. That would be the graph of our circle. Oof, that's a tough one. With center negative 2, 4, and radius of 5. Obviously, if you guys are working on this, maybe try to be a little more accurate, because this kind of looks like some busted up picture of some kid crying with what I have written there. Just try as best as you can there to graph your circles accurately, or use a piece of graph paper. The last thing that we're going to look at here is writing the equation. So we're going to write the equation. I'm going to say write the equation for a circle that has center 1, negative 2, and radius of 4. So now we're going backwards. Now the first thing that we want to do is let's think about the center. Now our equations for circles always follow this pattern right here. X plus something squared, y minus something squared equals the radius. So we look at the center, right? Our center has a positive 1 for the x, so that's telling us to go right 1. The minus 2 is telling us to go down 2. So what we can do is we know it has to be x plus or minus something squared, y plus or minus something squared. Now again, we have to think opposite, right? Immediately when we see right 1, we want to say, oh, x plus 1, that's right 1. But again, we have to think opposite there. Instead of it being x plus 1, we're going to go x minus 1. That's telling us to go right 1. Same thing with the y. We immediately want to just say y minus 2. That's down 2. But again, because we're thinking opposite, y plus 2 is actually telling us to go down 2. So we've added the center into our equation. Again, the last thing we have to do is just think about adding that radius in. In this case, our radius is 4. So we just go over here, we put 4, and we're not done. Again, make sure you follow our pattern. X minus 1 squared, y plus 2 squared. So this should be 4 squared, right? They all have a squared. The last thing we're going to do is just clean it up, write it a little bit nicer here. Whoops, I kind of undid something. We're going to go x minus 1 squared. That transfers us, or that translates us right 1, plus y plus 2 squared. That's our down 2 for our center, equals 4 squared is 16. That right there is the equation of a circle with center 1, negative 2, radius of 4. That's everything that we're going to review there for that first lesson. Again, we graphed a couple of circles. We were able to find the radius and the center from the equations, and we could even go backwards like we did over here on this third example. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through email. And make sure you guys are staying on top of it.